I've yet to build a single supporter, like not a single one. Not even one is E2'd. Now admittedly that streak is going to end in a few months when Haruka releases because I will be getting her even if I have to sell my goddamn pancreas. But as it currently stands, I simply don't use supporters. So whenever they show up in integrated strategies, I just end up taking Twitch Bitch and using her as a stun grenade. But here's the neat thing, in order to produce a shitty archetype, you need to find a few shitty branches to set the groundwork. And when I say a few shitty branches, I mean basically all of them are hot flaming garbage. So garbage in fact that I can't decide which one I'd like to slander the most. Actually, I can. Summoners actually have a rather high ceiling. Most of them have the potential to be solid operators. The problem is that in order to actually capitalize on that potential, you need to not be a complete fucking goo brain, which is probably why I can't use them. Maki can solo a shocking number of stages, but you need to actually think about where you're putting your drones and when you're popping your skill. You can't just throw shit on the field and pray. Well, I mean, you can, but that's probably not the most productive strategy. The important takeaway is that summoners have a ridiculous learning curve. In order to make them work, you have to make them work. They don't do any of the heavy lifting, you do. Using a summoner also severely limits how many other operators you can use due to what I call the big bad, which is a major issue that is both big and bad. I understand that's a difficult concept to wrap your brain around, so I'll give you a few seconds here to catch up. The big bad is the one overarching reason that summoners suck ass. Summons eat up deployment slots. That means that placing down a hentai prop carries the exact same weight as placing down a hentai prop, which in turn means you have to ask yourself if you'd really rather use Cthulhu's pubic hair as opposed to literally anyone else in the game. Usually the answer to that question is, what the fuck are you talking about? But I digress. In short, the big bad is that summons are forced to compete with actual operators, which is basically just a coughing baby versus a hydrogen bomb. Summoners aren't actually all that bad, they just require a bit more brain power to get rolling, and hence why nobody bothers to use them. Sending a new player directly into a Chapter 1 meat grinder armed only with a bunch of 3-stars and fucking Gitano is downright disrespectful. That's why Arknights provides new doctors with a free 5-star. When granted this reward in a very in-character move, I did not think about roster construction or material investment or any other sensible things. I just full sent it with Meyer. Mayor. Pretty sure it's actually pronounced Mayor, but I don't really give a shit. Do I regret my early Meyer acquisition? No, actually, not really. Meyer kinda hard carried me through the early game, mostly because I just didn't use anyone else. Instead, I simply employed the flawless Meebo strategy. Strong enemy, Meebo. Fast enemy, Meebo. Aerial enemy, Meebo. In high-end content, Meyer's utterly worthless since you'll slap a Meebo on its strategy is akin to fighting God with the cheese grater, something only JRPG protagonists can reliably pull off. Meyer does get a free points I hand out for being a part of Whine Lab, and more points for being an otter. She's pretty shit, but I like her. Deep Color fulfills like at least 6 fetishes in her E2 art, probably more. She's great for integrated strategies in adult films. Beyond that, there's not a whole lot here. Her S1 is not terrible, which is good because her S2 is actual comedy. This bullshit is genuinely one of the worst skills in the game. Dodge really only works as a mechanic when an operator is designed entirely around it. Beyond that, it's way too unreliable. Deep Color's S2 provides a 50% physical dodge. Not even arts, just physical. Well, at least she wasn't all that good to begin with. I don't use Deep Color, and I think you'd be hard pressed to find someone who actually does, but I do like her well enough. Also glasses. I do love glasses. Sand Reckoner applies slow, and he doesn't even do it well. He's basically baby's first diesel binder. Granted, I do like his design, that color palette is mwah. But that's really all he has going for him. His Clockwork Angry Birds are so thoroughly worthless, I would unironically use Earth Spirit before I even considered putting Mr. Horse Wand on my roster. Fucking Earth Spirit. That should tell you everything you need to know about just how utterly atrocious this poor bastard is. He is, in my opinion, the single worst dollar in the game, which is fucking tragic because I really do like his character design, but goddamn is it hard to justify using the little fucker. Slowers not named Suzerain are already pretty dogshit, but holy fuck, this guy takes it to the next level, doesn't he? Nobody cares about Scene. Can we talk about that? I will never understand why Scene gets no love from this community, but she doesn't, and that hurts me on a deep psychological level. She's a photographer, and I love her for that alone, but she's also quiet and lethargic and a sloth. She's a sloth. Oh god, I love her. I do understand why people don't use Scene, but I also feel the need to defend her, so hear me out. Scene actually does have a tangible use. It's a niche rarer than a weave that smells like peaches and cream, but it technically does exist. Scene's silly little guys remove invisibility in the 8 tiles directly surrounding them. Now I hear you, Enos exists. I know, okay? Bear with me here. Scene actually offers the best long-term invisibility removal in the game. Once your skill 1 is active, her silly little guys gain invisibility, much like Enos. Being an unlimited skill, it costs a decent chunk of SP, but once it's going, her buggies can be deployed just about anywhere on the map. That's why, if you have the luxury of time before you make contact with invisible enemies, Scene is actually more reliable than Enos. Now, you could argue that Enos actually does damage, and steals attack speed and binds along with a billion other things, and you'd be right. I'm not arguing that Scene is better than Enos. I'm not retarded. But in the extremely unlikely event that you do require a large range of long-lasting invisibility removal a minute into the stage, Scene is the best solution. Enos' Shadow Sentry only offers 3 tiles of effect. Typically, that's enough, but there are times where it won't cut it or forces you to finagle Enos into an unfavorable position. Is this anywhere near enough justification to use Scene over Enos in anything ever? Well, no, not really. But for those of you who don't have Thigh Woman, Scene is legitimately the best invisibility invalidator, along with Sackhead, Alter, and Silver Ash. But I don't respect Silver Ash, so remove him from that list. All that to say, Scene is fucking awesome, and unlike a certain other short blonde 5-star I adore, she's only mostly useless. Anyone who uses Scene is my friend by default. Also, you know how I mentioned that I don't have any supporters built? I lied because it was a good intro. Scene's max. Remember the big bad? Remember how it cripples all summoners beyond repair? Ling elects to ignore the concept entirely. After all, why be a bad operator when you can spontaneously spawn in 4-block Centurion dragons with more HP than Lovecraft that take up half the goddamn screen? Ling circumvents the big bad by having summons better than most operators. Well, kind of. There is one stipulation on Ling summons. They're really bad. Big Daddy over here might as well be prime Hasek. When it comes to damming the lane, he's really only beaten out by Nian and Sad Cat the Liberal, although her shield does mandate a bit more ebb and flow. As previously mentioned, he's also a Centurion for some fucking reason. As a 4-block. Granted, the high Thunderburst attack is pretty low, which does help to balance things out a bit. Ling herself is kinda just there. As far as Sweet Siblings go, she's almost up there with Dusk. Alcoholics will never not make for incredible characters, and you mean to tell me she's a poet too?
It was perfect. Perfect.
Despite being cursed with an abominable subclass, Ling manages to make herself useful to society by utilizing her unique traits and abilities. Imagine that. You know, I never understood why nobody can pronounce this poor girl's name properly. I mean, if English isn't your first language, fine, you get a pass, lucky you. But all you American assholes out there have no excuse. You pronounce the shit Magellan, and it's never been anything else. I mean, unless you pronounce it in Portuguese, which in fairness it might be since the name is most commonly associated with Ferdinand Magallan. But Magellan is from Colombia and named after the Magellanic penguin, so no, it actually would be the Americanized pronunciation. Fuck you, I'm right. Magellan is more or less the quintessential supporter. She has the potential to be amazing, but requires actual effort in order to reach that potential. Effort that most players just aren't willing to put in. I've heard people claim that she's the worst 6-star in the game, and whatever they were on, I need. This is Carnelian Erasure. Maggie is not a bad operator at all, she's just high skill. At her best, she's a freaking natural disaster, and at her worst, she's still so goddamn lovable. After all, she gave us Moo Moo. And Iffy. Come on, you can't hate this. You can't do it. You can't do it. Everyone loves penguins, man. Don't you lie to me. Radiant summons a goddamn hive mind. If one of these little assholes sees you, they all see you. Frankly, I have no idea if she's good or not, but knowing my track record, she's going to be broken beyond belief, since the operators I die for all suck ass and the ones I don't give a shit about are all the best in the game. Daughter is the one exception to that rule. So yeah, I don't know shit about Radiant. I do know a lot about you though. Yeah, you. I know where you live. Summoners are in a lot of ways like Hookmasters. They're both shitty branches filled with really likable operators. Well, mostly really likable. They're classes I can't really justify using, so I just don't bother. Instead, I charge blindly into the rage of war with a photographer and a structural engineer and then act surprised when that proves to not in fact be an optimal strategy. That's just how I play the game, and I enjoy it. Summoners are notoriously terrible, and I'm not about to tell you otherwise. They're laughably bad, but who are you to tell me I can't use them anyways? Which is kind of my outlook on Arknights in general, and that's why I hold the game in such a high regard. It's a good game because I can use Scene without getting spanked by high-level enemies. There's actual strategy that changes depending on who you choose to throw at the enemy. And if you pick Shu, or Logos, or God forbid Wizzy, all that really does is make the stage easier than it needs to be. It's never necessary to pull a new operator. I can chuck 7 fucking summoners into the melting pot and get away with that. And does that make those operators good? No. Myra will never be an outstanding operator, but frankly, who gives a shit when you can just slap an Evo on it and call it a day?